Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Wavy Tunnel Market Outlook for the week beginning Monday, the 24th of August. Before we start, if we can just have a quick read through the disclaimer that the presentation is for educational purposes only. That being said, let's crack on and let's get into what's going to happen for us next week in these markets. So let's go and have a look and see any interesting highlights that are jumping at us. We know that we have ongoing issues that we've been dealing with for the last 5 months. It'll all center around the Middle East and the oil price. There's been now an emphasis that has shifted to the behavior of the bond markets in America, the interventions that have happened this week, the impact that that's now had on gold. As you can see, advances to over 3-month highs. And so it's all going to get very interesting. What is ahead of us this week? So let's have a look. And I'm just going to look for what is out there, and which is Jackson Hole, which I think is going to be, well, before that you've got Wednesday, core PCE, which is going to be important, GDP, and there we go, Jackson Hole Symposium, which starts, and there's going to probably be a lot that comes out of that. Fed Chair Walsh's speech and non-farm payroll. So you can see how activity is going to ramp up during the course of the week. And then to add fuel to the fire, we've got Nvidia on Wednesday. So to say this is going to be a pivotal, important and critical week is an understatement. So a lot is potentially going to happen. Let's see if we can pick the bones out of this. I would probably suggest at this point in time, let's go into a slightly higher time frame here. So you can see let's go into a daily. And you can see that the market is waiting for, so this was the announcement of the Fed, where they said they're going to start, the Fed, they're doing buybacks to try and take the pressure off the bond market, which is pushing up to higher highs every day. So, and then we had 2 days of that where they doubled it again, and the impact was rather muted. And you can see now the market is in a period of indecision, and they are now waiting probably for everything that's going to come out. So it's probably difficult to try and understand what's going to happen this week. What I can say unequivocally is that the authorities have shown their hand. So they're going to do whatever it takes to slow down the march of the bond market. Obviously, the bond market is not in sync with what's going on in the equity market and the optimism that people have in that particular area. So you've got the ideal situation now of a conflict that's setting up, and we're going to see who wins this. I've always said this, and I've said it for all the years that I've been doing this. Central banks, they lose the battles, but they win the war because they've got more resources. They can keep throwing things at this. So we'll get the first indication of those this week. So what do we propose for this week? Unfortunately, I'm going to say you can see what's going to happen, because we're going to say let's wait and see, because the market is also in a wait and see. So we waiting to see if we can scale the highs, or we can break lower for a deeper move lower down towards the tunnel. We are hovering around the wave at the moment. The market is looking for something. So, and I think that something's not going to come until Wednesday. So prepare yourself, get your charts lined up, get everything working to see if 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 there's going to be a bigger impact on markets. You're probably going to see a weakening. We go a weakening of the dollar, and you there we go, daily chart. You're going to see um, a bigger retracement of this move lower here in the euro and against the dollar. So depending on what is said, we currently sitting around the 50% mark, and if the market believes what the Fed is going to do and going to support and make sure that the 30-year doesn't keep racing ahead, then you're probably going to find that this is then going to shoot up into the 119 area, possibly 120. This will be an important level up here, which is our magic numbers that we always like, 707 and 75%. Obviously, if not, but they've shown their hand. They've shown their hand. So it's going to be difficult for them to do a U-turn on what they've shown. The only thing is how the market interprets this and whether it's going to be a prolonged fight or they're going to, you know, take the knee and admit defeat and go. So depending on that. So your outcome here is very simple. Around this level, we're either going to extend back towards 1920 or we're going to come back down to 1112. Which way it's going to go, I don't know. I think, and it's not for us to speculate because that is then gambling. And wait for the setups to come, see what the market is going to interpret this, wait for those moves to happen because then the setup will be, because your charts will be marked out, you'll have all your levels, you'll have the wavy tunnel platform, the analysis here, so you will know what to do from all your training. I think the song is going to remain the same with every single currency pair against the dollar. Depending on what comes out this week, you can see very, very clearly here where the line is in the sand for sterling. Bang, there it is. Then we could see, you can see that this one is a little bit stronger than the euro, because you can see that this is, which I find a little bit hard to believe. Now, important level right here. So let's have a look at this. So you can see here, if we extend all the way down to the left hand side and across, you can see that level. Now that move down there, 131 to 136, so that would equate a move to 141. Let's see what that looks like on our targets here, and it'll probably coincide. There it is, 270, 141. Decision point. Next decision, target, failure, down here, next decision, and either break or continuation. So it's set up very, very nicely for next week. I won't drill down too much because it's going to be a long wait till midweek and there's so much coming out. Do the work in your charts. This is just giving you some insight into what I'm thinking, what I've experienced, and what I'm seeing. It's not going to be no different on the Canadian dollar. There's a lot of fallout with tariffs. They are agreed, they're not agreed. You can see, you know, straight up, straight down. So you can see here, this is also at a juncture in the Canadian dollar, whether or not we go and test that level or we will go and test that level. Do your analysis, look at what wavy tunnel is telling you. Snapbacks here for continuation, snap back here, hold, consolidate and break higher. Those are the things that you need to be observing and watching to see where the next move is. Everything has got so political now, everything, and I'm not going to get into that world. Similarly with the yen, we know about the intervention, we know about everything that's been going on. We also know now that there, you know, The Federal Reserve has been involved in this. So this is another one they're not going to let go. And this is evident here, where the market now is waiting for fresh direction. And that fresh direction is coming this week. And this will give us an idea of the next move in the currencies to try and pinpoint areas. Look at everything that you are seeing on here. You can see now above the 61.8 retracement, we probably go back to the recent highs. Failure at that area is then failure up, around the tunnel, and we probably see if we can come down and complete down at 153. This week will go a long way to actually telling us a little bit about those particular moves. Let's go into the futures. So while we've been talking about the 30-year, let's just have a quick look. And you can see. So there's the announcement from Bessent, Treasury Secretary. There it comes. The market stumbled and stuttered. So now you've got a level that might update gamma levels. You can see the level around this 518, 517 area. We pushed as high as, and so they've had an effect. We've probably retraced a little bit more than 50%. If I have a look at that, 61.8. So we've got a decision. So this week again, we'll decide whether we blow through that or we come back. If the Fed wins this war, we're going to come back down into this area here. We never talk about these. I don't talk about them, the bonds, but it's because it's key. And it'll come back down here. So this week is pivotal. Not that it'll come back down here this week, but in time. So if they succeed in capping this and letting this come down, and you'll probably see a gradual move, something like this, where the market gets optimistic. I showed you that tool that we can measure the moves for the market, and let's have a look here. So it's the where is it, bars pattern. So you get that there to that to there, you pull that in there, and then what you do is you take that up there and you see how it gets us back into this level. So we've marked that out on the chart already. So depending on what the market is going to do, and if the Fed wins and the Treasury Secretary wins, this is where we're going. I'm not saying this will be the price action, but this will be the general state of play, and then ultimately you'll be looking to come back down into that level there. And for now, you've got a defined range. And then this will become your pivot. So that's the Treasury. I know we don't normally do this, but it's because it's so topical and it's there at the moment. So let's have a look. Let's go to the Nasdaq. Let's put I won't put the gamma levels in just yet. Let's have a look and see where we were from last week. Let's go into the 1 hour, and I think the levels that we identified are still in play. So we can see now broadly where our ranges are. Again, this week, if the market is loving what Nvidia is saying, if they're liking what's coming out of Jackson Hole, we can see that this area here is going to be your first area of attack. If they're not, we need to breach this, and then we will probably come a little bit lower. and buy a little bit lower, we can see that this move down here nearly did 100% retracement, and we add a pivot point here now. So if the market is positive, we're going back above 30,000 and push on a little bit more. Again, not this week, but in the coming months. If the market is not happy, also remember you've got midterm elections coming up in May, and there's a lot of talk on news that, pre or post, so end of August, September, the market usually and traditionally has had a 10% correction. Do the maths on all of those, see where all those indicators land up. So let's put the gamma levels on here, and let's go end of date and see how that lines up with what we've got on this chart. Your preparation is going to be done Monday, Tuesday. A lot is going to happen Wednesday onwards in this market. So let's pull that in a bit closer. There we go. And we can see how that, or let's make this an hourly. Pull that across. See how the wavy tunnel, our boxes, and the gamma levels all tying up. Bang, and you can see it. So we've got an area here that we had identified. You can see options have got it as well. 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 You frame this whole scenario out. These are your pivot areas, these big areas in here. In between, messy, choppy. If you're a scalper, just set up your lower time frame charts to identify trades. The market seems heavy, but as has been my experience this year, this market, when it goes down, seems to be controlled. You can see there's no great big exaggerated moves lower. Everything seems to be controlled. What does that mean? I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Fed was buying. Just what I think. So don't let me influence what you think and what your charts will say. Let's have a look at the S&P. This is going to tell you a very, very similar story. You can see where all those key areas are. You can see how that coincides with price action. You can see the impact of that with all the wavy tunnel analysis that's on your chart. So what have we got here? High levels of 0 DTE. What have you got here? You've got a gap, you've got a tunnel, you've got the wave. So you've got all the levels on your chart to identify what it is that you need to be looking at, the level you need to be looking at, because when you get to this point here, you'll look for the break, the retest, and then the move higher. The test, can't break, and then the move lower. And that's what you're looking for. And you're looking for, look to the left of these, all these lines we put on all the little boxes, we leave there for a reason. And you see how the market then correlates with what's going on in option. This is not, it's by design, all of this, because the levels are picked by traders like you and me. And this is why you get these areas and these, what you can either call it a pivot point, an area of interest, an area where you need to make a decision. So that's that. Let's have a look at NVIDIA. So when we're talking about NVIDIA, see what that is likely to do or not do. You can see obviously this has been on a tear. Let's go into a daily and see how that's been behaving. So you can see here, so let's have a look at this point here from there to there. So there's the ultimate target at 256. You can see how previously of that move we pulled back into 61.8. So this is going to tell us this week when the results come out, you've got all the gamma levels in here, and they sit, and you see how congested this is. So no breakout until Wednesday. There's a gap there in the market, so maybe that gets filled pre-earnings or post-earnings, we don't know. quite a few gaps in this chart. So what's going to happen on Wednesday? We either going to traditionally what happens is that first 15 minutes after the results, as people, they get the results and it's positive because it's going to be blowout figures. We know that. Bang, goes up, but then they're going to tell you about all the capital expenditure, bang, bang, and it usually goes down. People have all bought the calls. They're all looking to sell the calls, and we get a move lower post earnings. But, if the numbers are exceptional and then the downside is limited, you can see how congested the areas are on the options. So I'll just put it into a slightly lower time frame so you can see that a little bit better. So that's NVIDIA. There we go. And see how that's all tying in with what the wavy tunnel is telling you as well. So it's great. Pick your levels, pick your poison. Let's have a look at gold, because obviously this market now is on a rampage. Again, this will tell us this week what's going to happen because of the announcements that are coming out of Jackson Hole, and what comments are going to be made by the Fed with regard to the bonds, etc. But you can see where this market is heading, back to 4,700. You can see that this correction. The other thing that's probably happening now is that you had the sell-off with everything that was happening in the Middle East, because this was the asset there where people were making money. Liquidate your profitable assets to fund the asset that you needed to fund, which was the oil. And then that's lasted for a number of months. And then you can see the sell-off came into an area here where I would think that all these people that sold, all the central banks and all their people, accumulated. And this is accumulation pattern. That is accumulation. So you've got your area, you've got what the options think about this, you've got everything in place here, you've got your high. The other thing that we could do here is if we break, so I'm going to do this now, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that, just going to extend that a little, I'm just going to bring that in a little. So if we break above 4,600, that's where we're going. What does that coincide with? Previous highs. If not, and I doubt this is going to be the move, it's the inverse. I can't turn it around, but it's the inverse. Don't know if I can turn it around. Flipped. But I don't think that's going to happen. And where is that previous area of accumulation? So there's your gold chart as well. That's all set up for you. You can see what the tunnel is trying to do, the wave with the tunnel, the crossover, markets through it. As you know, these are all lagging indicators. So you've got, and then what is that from an options perspective? You've got your high levels on 0 DTE, you've got your put support, you've got everything else, and we are currently approaching call resistance. So you've got all your key levels. Let's jump to the other one we always talk about, which is oil. There it is. This one is difficult for everyone because are we, aren't we? And it's very, very difficult. We can see here, there's all your option levels. Let's go in. Whoops. No, I don't want to do that. I want to delete that. I want this one that I want to copy. And I want to bring it into here where we are. So there's your range. And it's going to be the same thing. That move there. There. And that move there. And these are all your previous lows, all your previous highs, and you can see what does that coincide with? A target. What do I favor? I favor this one. But that's me, and remember, it's just my own personal opinion. It's not trading advice. So guys, do your preparation. There's a lot coming this week. It's going to be, people are starting to go back to work. Holidays are coming to an end. The heat wave is coming to an end in England, thankfully. We've had no rain since the 11th of June. And so wish you luck, stay safe, and see you next week. Take care.